Okay, Oksana, am I audible? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, a grand welcome to all of you to the first edition of the 2021 COMAGI. That is the first international conference on migration and gender issues. I warmly welcome Honorable Rector of the Alfred Nobel University, Dnipro city, Ukraine, Dr. Sergii Kholod. I warmly welcome Professor Dr. Inderjeet Singh Sodhi, Vice Chairman of the IPARN Foundation, and I warmly welcome Professor Dr. Eli. She is a Research Director at the Migration Institute of Finland. So this session will be very interesting because a lot of the speakers will be speaking and they will be giving their introductory speech. This is one of the most interesting topics of discussions now because the world is going through a pandemic, and this has made migration very complicated as well as interesting for the researchers. So on behalf of Dr. Abba Foundation and on behalf of the IPARN Foundation, I welcome all the participants to the introductory session of the conference. So now I would like to invite Professor Inderjeet Singh Sodhi to give his introductory speech. I think he is online. I should. So once again, I warmly welcome Professor Inderjeet Singh Sodhi to give his introductory speech. Professor Sodhi, the floor is all yours now.
Thanks, Dr. Saurabh. I'm very glad today we all are organizing COMAGI 2021. Very good day to all the organizer and participants. Please allow me to share my screen so that I can.
Yes. One second, just a second. Okay, sir. Now you can share your screen.
Yes. Myself, Professor Inderjeet Singh Sodhi, Vice Chairperson of IPARN Foundation. IPARN Foundation and Alfred Nobel University and ABBA Foundation. They all are organizing this 2021 COMAGI. The other organizer are Migration Institute of Finland, Transnational Press London, Ternopil National Pedagogical University, Ukraine, Hatia Mustafa Kemal University, Turkey, University Institute of Lisbon, Portugal, Dimitri Cantamir Christian University, Bucharest, Romania, Mersin University, Turkey, Faculty of Business and Law of the MB University, Serbia, Belgrade, National Institute for Economic Research, Republic of Moldova. I'm thankful to all these organizers. Together, we are going to organize this first international conference on migration and gender issues. I will discuss something about IPARN Foundation. IPARN is Integrated Policy and Administrative Research Networking Foundation. This foundation is a non-profit organization registered under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India as a non-profit organization under the Indian Companies Act 2013 to promote scientific research and exchange of knowledge and to contribute for international development. This foundation is an outcome of experience with academicians, researchers, bureaucrats from around the globe. The best practices from across the nations are frequently being discussed and compared for producing effective solutions at the policy level. The vision of its member is to make a sustainable future for the better world. The growing network of members are continuously working for the development of research. And if we talk about some initiative or activity, so recently the IPARN Foundation has signed some agreements, mainly with 4 prestigious universities in Ukraine, to create educational and scientific partnership, as well as for the establishment of research center. The main prestigious universities are Alfred Nobel University, Ukraine; Policia National University, Zhytomyr, Ukraine; Ternopil National Pedagogical University, Ukraine; and Dnipro University of Technology, Ukraine. I am thankful to all these 4 universities who has had faith in our IPARN Foundation. There are some future plans also. If we talk about IPARN Foundation is in pipeline to have some more agreements with many other universities in Peru, America, Canada, Britain, as well as our home India, for the development and creation of educational and scientific partnership, as well as setting up of research centers so that we can focus on research like e-government, local government, smart cities, migration issues, migration policies, environmental governance, tourism management, disaster management, etc. Now question arises why there is need to conduct studies on migration, whether in this 21st century, migration is still relevant, still significant. Yes, of course. For the better livelihood, for new opportunity, migration is important. Around 10 years before, according to United Nations, more than 240 million peoples, or about more than 3% of the world's population, is currently living outside of their country of origin. Migration is also important if we talk about transfer of manpower or skills or some enhancement of knowledge or innovation for the global growth as well as sustainable development. There is also sometimes we listen about forced migration. Forced migration is becoming ever more prevalent as a result of civil, political, and religious persecution and conflict. So there is a growing need to understand the important relationship between environmental change and forced migration and displacement. I would not talk about too much migration, ki what type of research study is needed. As we have Professor Ali with us from Institute of Migration, University of Turku, Finland. She is a renowned researcher and academician and professor. So I believe she will focus on more migration in a better way. The IPARN Foundation would like to work on various issues of migration, including reverse migration that has happened due to Corona in 2020 after the March, when we imposed, we could say, lockdown in India. So like other country, India also has some issue relating to migration like international migration, external migration, immigration, emigration, as well as return migration, seasonal migration, and some cases of forced migration, but that is less some issue. The reverse migration, if you talk about reverse migration compared to seasonal migration, compared to internal migration or other type of migration, there is need to focus on reverse migration as it has been advocated and supported by our honorable chairperson, Professor Manoj Dixit, and my friend, Dr. Saurabh, Both are of the view now there is more need to look into reverse migration because it is a recent issue which has emerged since last year in India. Still, the many government organizations like NSS or National Sample Survey Organization, they all are not able to conduct reverse migration by the international organization, international institute, as well as national institute. They should focus on, I believe, on reverse migration because it has led to mass exodus of people from cities to rural areas or even from some big cities to small cities nearby. And India, as we know, is the second most populated country as the and also the most democratic country in the world. So there is need to look into this issue. And the coronavirus pandemic has triggered a massive reverse migration from the destination to source in large part of the country. We have witnessed hundreds of thousands of laborers marching back to their villages in order to find some warmth and empathy, more than anything else. And it has also triggered for due to which we are facing some, particularly the laborers are facing some issues as well as those persons who are in the constructions work, they have faced regarding their economic and social issues. There are some researchers who are working at lower level, not large scale. So some of the researchers through their views or their thinking, they are of the view that there is need to complete transformation of economic and administrative processes, practices and policies to enable the rural to face up to the issue that the coronavirus induced reverse migration which have put up before the common people in developing country like India. We need a charter of the rights of the working population across the board that could ensure the right to livelihood, right to food, right to security of their employment, as well as dignity of labor. Such a charter should become the guiding principle in the post-coronavirus phase of India's polity and economy. And recently, we all know there is second wave of coronavirus has started throughout the world. India also little bit. We don't know what will happen in April and May. There is need to focus on the study on reverse migration on some pertinent issue like agrarian crisis, significance of women. If you talk about women, so earlier women who are looking after taking care of the agriculture issue, but due to reverse migration, nowadays the number of women has significantly gone down because now that place has been taken by men. So now, what are the financial sources of women? We have to look into. So I believe there is need to focus on some studies on related to women who were earlier parts working for agriculture and they were self-dependent. But now, due to reverse migration, how many women have faced? Particularly, there are few states like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan. These are the few states, I think 6-7 states where we have to look into more how it has affected regarding women's participation in agriculture as well as labor cost, employment, social issues, how this so has affected because earlier some family were there in hometown, some family were in other parts, but now due to reverse migration they are living in one room or two room. So how they are adjusting, these all issues we have to look into, as well as how it has affected environment. No doubt coronavirus has led to some environmental improving, but on the other side, due to reverse migration, now the population in some part of the rural has increased again. So we have to look into how it has affected. Only through some collaboration or some good research study we could do something. So I believe there is need for to conduct some primary studies. And beside reverse migration, the other important of migration issue could be seasonal migration. Particularly in Punjab and Haryana, many laborers move from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, these two states, whenever there is harvesting of the crop. After the cutting of the crop, they go back for 15 days, 1 month or 2 months, then again they come. So during that time, how they sustain their life or family and what social issue emerges, we have to look into. I believe the second issue of research study could also be related to seasonal issue as well as internal migration issue. IPARN Foundation is looking for some international partners so that we can work together on some pertinent issue like migration, reverse migration, seasonal migration, internal migration, as well as immigration, movement of the people from one country to another. So, but the important issue, institution like Alfred Nobel University, Ukraine, with which already we had MOU. So I'm very much thankful to the rector, Professor Sergii, and all their team, Rector, Sergei, and Vice Rector, as well as Dr. Oksana. She played a very important role for this MOU, and my colleague, Dr. Saurabh. Beside that, there is Migration Institute of Finland, Turku, Finland, International Organization for Migration, Geneva, Switzerland, International Migration Institute, Amsterdam Institute for Social Science Research, University of Amsterdam, Netherlands, Migration Institute of Australia, Sydney, Migration Policy Institute, Washington, America, Institute for Migration Research and Intercultural Studies, Germany, Center of Migration Research, Warsaw University, Poland, Center on Global Migration, University of Gothenburg, Sweden, Center for Migration and Intercultural Studies, University of Antwerp, Belgium, Center for Advanced Migration Studies, University of Copenhagen, Denmark. Some more research, international institute and university like Center on Migration, Policy and Society, University of Oxford, Department for Migration and Globalization, Danube University, Austria, Research Unit on Migration, Management of Diversity and Social Cohesion, Spain, International Center for Migration Policy Development, Vienna, Austria, International Migration Laboratory, University of Trento, Italy. Beside these university and institute, there could be some scientific partner like Migration Institute of Finland, Turku, Finland, Sussex Center for Migration Research, University of Sussex, United Kingdom, Swiss Forum for Migration and Population Study, Switzerland, Redbourne University Network on Migration Inclusion, Netherlands, Institute for Research on Migration, Ethnicity and Society, Sweden. Through these partnership, we both can together work and move further and could look into those issues where there is more need. And some other scientific partner could be Migration Mobility, Bristol University, United Kingdom, Monash Migration and Inclusion Center, Monash University, Australia, Salzburg Migration and Mobility Studies, Austria, Leiden Interdisciplinary Migration Seminar, University of Leiden, Netherlands, Maastricht Center for Citizenship, Migration and Development, Netherlands. So I believe that some of our friends like Oksana and Dr. Sasha both has helped us in MOU. Like that, they will help in further, and other colleagues and other friends will help us so that we could have more MOU and agreements. And as well, there could be some international scholars and researcher like Professor Ellie. She is research director at Institute of Migration, Finland. Professor Carlos Silva, director of Center on Migration Policy and Society, University of Oxford. Dr. Adam, SOS, University of London. Dr. Mary Sandberg, director of Center for Advanced Migration Studies, University of Copenhagen, and Dr. Dace, Center on Migration Policy and Society, University of Oxford. And some more research scholars like Professor Marcel Lovers, Utrecht University, Professor Michael Spindelger, Director, International Center for Migration Policy Development, Vienna, Austria, Professor Michael, European Center on Migration and Ethnic Relation, Utrecht University, Netherlands. So I believe through all these international institute, university, scientific organization, and through scholars, researcher, and academician, we can work something that could be a benchmark for other institute, and that could be helpful for all the organizations. So I'm very much thankful to all the organizer, particularly to Dr. Saurabh, Dr. Oksana. Both are working since more than 15 days, 20 days, day and night, despite of their doing regular job. So I'm very much happy. Thanks to all the organization.
Thank you so much, Professor Sodhi. It is very nice. It was very nice listening to you. Now I would invite the guest of honor of this session and the conference, Professor Dr. Sergii Kholod, to deliver his introductory speech. Now, Professor Kholod, the floor is all yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear participants of the first international conference on migration and gender issues, COMAGI 2021. Welcome to Alfred Nobel University. Before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all partners of the first international conference on migration and gender issues, who helped us to make this event to become a success. But the greatest respect and my sincere gratitude is to Professor Dr. Manoj Dixit, Head of the Department of Public Administration, University of Lucknow, India, and Prof. Dr. Saurabh Chandra, Managing Director of IPARN Foundation, India. You are the heart and brain of COMAGI 2021. It couldn't have taken place without you. To distinguish your contribution, Alfred Nobel University Academic Council has made a decision to Professor Dr. Manoj Dixit and Dr. Saurabh Chandra with the special award and order for research leadership.
The honor is all ours, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am happy that the first international conference on migration and gender issues becomes a multinational platform for fruitful exchange of ideas and extremely important issues, which are discussed by researchers, politicians, and community leaders from India, Turkey, Portugal, Serbia, Germany, Ukraine, Finland, Moldova. And I am extremely delighted to hold such a prominent event at Alfred Nobel University. Alfred Nobel University is a leading private university in Ukraine, working internationally with partners from Poland, France, USA, Turkey, Ghana, Germany, Spain, Georgia, India, South Korea, Israel, Great Britain, which enriches us to motivate us to develop. The mission of the university is to promote educational and scientific values of 21st century to develop European and world integration of Ukraine. The idea of the mission fits the slogan "Education for Life," education through life. Alfred Nobel University is the single university in Ukraine to have international accreditation of study programs and system of management. Our MBA program is accredited by the European Council for Business Education, ECBI, Belgium, and 25 study programs are accredited by ZEVA Accreditation Agency. Currently, we are in the process of AACSB accreditation, USA. I share these facts not only to boast Alfred Nobel University achievements, but also to show that we are not newcomers in solving gender issues, as all accreditations we go through, all international projects we implement make us think about and work on diversity and gender balance. Without any doubts, we can say that gender equality is associated with fundamental needs for the normal development of any country and international society in general. The international community has realized that these issues are significant for over 50 years and have developed forms of legal regulation in different conventions, protocols, and agreements. According to these forms of regulation, most states are implementing these principles in national legislation and social life. However, Proclaiming gender equality de jure does not guarantee these issues are resolved de facto within states. There are different explanations of this situation, both objective and subjective. Some of them are such as culture factors, economic factors, and a lack of desire for their own citizens to receive equal treatment. In this respect, Ukraine has so far not been largely successful, although has made positive steps and doesn't have the worst record on these issues. Since the start of the 21st century, this gender equality issue started to become more important. Ukraine adopted a new law on ensuring equal rights and opportunities for women and men, among others. Recently, a new wave of gender equality issues has arisen. A new Ukrainian law on prevention and tackling domestic violence has been introduced. The Institute of Gender Authority has been established, which promotes ratification process of the Istanbul Conference to Ukraine standards and implements international standards on gender equality. National Action Plan was developed and approved in September 2018 to implement recommendation of the UN Committee to the elimination of discrimination against women concern its complaints with the Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women through 2021. In recent years, it is obvious that for the implementation of gender equality, it is not enough to pass certain legislation only. It requires a long-term transformation of the public policy and social stereotypes. Despite the prevailing understanding of gender equality as one very important value and principle in a contemporary world, still men and women take different roles in the field of higher education and science. Despite positive changes achieved in recent years, the low presence of women can be noticed in the highest academic position in universities. It proves the existence of a glass ceiling that is invisible barriers based on gender prejudice. Stated by European Parliament in 2015. Female graduates, despite being the majority of bachelor and master courses, are less likely than men to secure graduate level jobs and usually earn less than men 6 months after graduation. According to the report of European University Association, universities are still male-dominated institutions. Currently, 12% of rectors among the 47 EUA member countries are female, compared to 88% of male rectors. In the 28 EU member states, only 21% of rectors are female. However, the figure of female vice rectors are more uplifting. Some EUA member countries do have gender parity, like Latvia, Croatia, and Norway, while in Ukraine, vice rectors are mostly males. Women's progress and advanced in academia and work are also complicated by traditional beliefs about gender roles. Studies by Hong Kong women, for example, suggest that women are in conflict about choice of their multiple roles as mother, daughters, professional, and wives. Many women feel guilt for working instead of caring for their families, and as a result, adjust their career and lifestyle expectation according to their family demands, disregarding their own interests. This double burden prevents them from advancing to senior roles. The challenge won't simply go away, and the glass ceiling won't be broken just because there are more women in university spaces. The issues of leadership at universities should be addressed through policies that promote that recruitment of women of management positions. The University of Hong Kong, for example, use compulsory diversity to increase the proportion of women in DO-level position from 9% to 26%. The University of Nagoya in Japan will have women-only jobs with the aim of 75% increase in women and senior faculty positions. At Alfred Nobel University, we understand the importance of gender issues, and we implement gender equality not only declaratively, meeting the National Action Plan, Constitution and gender legislation, but also practically promoting women's leadership. All 4 vice rector positions has been taken by women since 2019. That is our contribution to the National Action Plan implementation. I would be happy if I had nothing to say about another issue raised within our conference topic, which is migration, but Russian military aggression constitutes a significant humanitarian crisis for Ukraine and Dnipro region, with at least 1.7 million internally displaced persons. 2/3 of internally displaced persons, according to UN reports, are women who are at risk of gender-based violence. Alfred Nobel University has also been affected by the conflict directly. From one side, our international activity suffered as our partners were afraid to keep term with us, and all projects were temporarily wind up. From another side, we faced the team of EDIPS in our city and took part in the EDIPS adaptation through education. So we are the right place for the first international conference on migration and gender issues to be held. We are sure that experts on gender and migration issues have a lot of ideas to share. We hope that during the first international conference on migration and gender issues, we will be able to exchange the best practices in ensuring gender equality and human rights of migration and internally displaced person, not only in political and economic spheres, but also in the social and cultural ones. To this end, it is necessary to widen the number of experts involved into migration and gender issues with the annual experts, seminars, roundtable discussions, and international conference, and draw on specialists who professionally deal with the discussed topic on their countries. It would also be useful to exchange best practices on the institutional level for the promotion of gender equality, migrants' rights protection in different countries. Dear colleagues, our fruitful work during conference and collection of abstracts should make a significant contribution to research the global transformation of paradigm to treat migration and gender issues responsibility, to work out and analyze scenarios of possible developments and strengthen the potential of the science and research to find out an optimal solution for migration and gender issues. I sincerely hope you will enjoy these 2 days of debate and networking. Thank you for your participation. Wish you good health, breakthrough ideas, efficient networking, and new friends for future fruitful cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful listening to you, sir. Thank you so much for the time. And here I would like to mention that the conference would not have been possible without the support of yours, and without the support of Dr. Oksana, and without the support of Professor Inderjeet Singh Sodhi. So on behalf of the IPARN Foundation and from the permission of our chairman, Professor Manoj Dikshit, I hereby announce that we would like to present the Excellence Award of this year to our Honorable Rector, Professor Kholod, and our Senior Scientist Award to Dr. Oksana, and Good Academic Award to Professor Inderjeet Singh Sodhi. So I would like to thank Professor Sodhi for his continuous support. And on behalf of the COMAGI conference, we will be giving him a Senior Scientist Award. So now we would like to invite Professor Ali for the presentation. Thank you so much, Professor Ali, for accepting our invitation. The floor is all yours now. So you can unmute yourself and please have.
Thank you very much.
And, nice meeting you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. And it is the morning time here in Finland. And for the beginning, I would like to say, dear guest of honor, Dr. Sergii Kholod, dear Chair Professor Dr. Inderjeet Singh Sodhi, dear Co-Chair Dr. Saurabh Chandra, and dear all the audience of this 2021COMAGI conference. And for the beginning also, I would like to warmly thank you, Alfred Nobel University, and all the organizers for the invitation to this very interesting conference. Thank you very much. I have a presentation and I would like to share it to you, if I may. Thank you. And let's check if this is functioning, changing the slides. Yes, very finely. So my theme today is the significance of the first international conference on migration and gender issues, shortly 2021COMAGI, for scholars and migration and gender issues. And for the beginning, I would like to show you some increase of global migration, because this is really like a phenomenon which is all the time increasing year by year. And I took some international statistics because you have here in the audience, or we have here in the audience, a lot of people around the world. And here you can see this international migration from 2019 to 2020. And in 2090, there were something like total numbers, 150 million people who were not living in their country of birth. But the curve has been increasing year by year all the time. So it means that in the globe, we have this population who are living outside of the home country. It is increasing the stock of these international migrants. And there was the really recent numbers to 2020, and nowadays it is 280 million. And we have also the shares for the males and females, and they are very much the same numbers. And the share for females, it is 48%, and for males 52% of all the stock. And this is a phenomenon which is really touching all regions, all countries, that we get more and more these international migrants. And how it is when we look at these regions, these global regions, and then we look at and compare 2000 and 2020, first these figures, that which is the share of international migrants in each region of their total population. And you can see the highest numbers are in Northern America and in Oceania, very, very high. And when we look at to 2020, the numbers have been increasing, except in Africa, it is the same share of the total population, but in absolute terms, it will be more compared to 2000, but in relative terms. And in Asia, increasing, Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Northern America, and Oceania. And when you look at then these numbers, when we look at what is the migrant stock share in each of these regions of the total number, 280 million. And the share for Oceania, it is very small, but in their own population, it is very high. It is 1/5. And then for Northern America, it is 1/5 of the whole world migrant stock, and over 30% for Asia and Europe, and less for Africa and Latin America and the Caribbean. So this is showing that it can be in the global terms small share of the total stock, but it is very important in the region itself. And when we look at this international migration 2020 highlights, and nearly half of all international migrants resided in the global region from which they originated, with Europe accounting for the largest share of intra-regional migration. So people are moving within the regions, those global regions. 70% of migrants born in Europe reside in another European country. So mostly they are moving within Europe, not going to other places. But of course, there is this 30% of people in Europe have been moving to other bigger global regions. And nearly 2/3 of all international migrants live in high-income countries, in contrast with just 31% in middle-income countries and around 4% in low-income countries. And this is also very important to notice that low and middle-income countries hosted 80% of the world's refugees. And but in the total stock in the international migration, its share is 12%. And as I was saying earlier, that around half of those migrants are women or girls. And here is this age structure for the female migrants and for 2020. And we have to remember also that when we look at these figures that, for example, when we look at by age structure, there are different kinds of people moving around. We have families with children. This is the share of the children in the migration stream for ladies. And there are also unaccompanied refugee minors. There is a very high share of the migrants. They are young people. They are in good working age. Those are the people, for example, Finland, which is an aging society. We need this kind of people who are entering to the labor markets. Here we have labor immigrants. We have international degree students. We have, for example, marriage migrants and so on. But what was very interesting, and I had to double check this 75 plus because I didn't believe first that it's so big amount of these elderly people, because what we know in migration streams that the older you get, the less you move. But we have the stories also behind here that when we get, for example, ladies are living a little bit longer lives compared to males in general terms. And when we get older, we need care, we can't manage ourselves, then we might move to the place where we have our relatives, our daughters, sons, and so on. So we are dependent of that care. But here in these younger groups of these who are retired, they can move, for example, to warmer countries, to Spain or to Thailand or so on, when it is a so-called normal time. Now we live the COVID-19 times, people are not moving so much. And then we can continue further on. And how it went this way. The World Migration Report 2020 is showing and pointing out, which is very important. And when we look at from the long-term data, it is possible to see that this international migration is not uniform across the world, but it is really shaped by demographic, economic, geographic, and other factors resulting in distinct migration patterns. So each region, whatever region, either it is a city or a rural area or maybe in national level countries or wider regions, there are different stories behind and different reasons. And when we come now to 2021COMAGI, this conference of migration and gender issues, it is very nice we have this kind of important conference and number one today starting. And it brings together an interdisciplinary group of scholars in the humanities and social sciences. And as we have noticed, but what I raised here in my speech, there have been addressed several important themes of migration and gender studies. This conference will deal migration issues of women and men in different countries, because these migration flows are nowadays more diverse, complex, and patterns are multi-layered. Migrants have their own personal reasons and experiences of migration and its consequences in a short term and a long run in their lives. Behind each statistical numbers, what I just showed you, there are persons, there are human beings who have decided to pack their stuff and they have moved totally to another country, not within own country, although it is an internal migration. Those are very important migration streams, but in the international level. And women's empowerment in action is one of the main themes, and it touches many fields of life as consequence of migration. Giving a view to migration and gender perspective widens our understanding and knowledge of the versatile migration phenomenon in different countries around the world. Migration can be called target migration and forced migration, as it was earlier mentioned, this forced migration. Marriage migration and labor migration, they are very well-known examples of this target migration. People are willing to advance in the career, they might change the country and go on living over there, or within the country, they move maybe from small city to a bigger city and having better labor markets situation over there and variety of the jobs. And these are included to the program of the conference. And there is also this forced labor in different countries, which is very negative consequence of migration. And women in war and conflict, struggle, resistance, and security. It is also the theme that connects to forced migration. So some part of these international migrants or in country internal migration, migrants can be a situation forced to flee from home to safe region, even to faraway country. What we have seen, for example, during the migration crisis 2015, when Finland got 10 times more asylum seekers compared to the year 2014. Another form of forced migration is this modern slavery and human trafficking in different countries, and it is very, very negative side of migration and mobility. And what we discussed in all around the world is this integration of immigrants to the host countries with different indicators. I could mention here, for example, for EU, European Union, there is such a website, European website on integration. European website on integration, shortly EWSI, and you can find it in English, German, and French. And that website purpose is to deliver, for example, good practices, what has been in different countries. It is updated every month. It was established in 2010. And for example, our institute is the country coordinator for Finland. And in each EU countries, there are those coordinators, and there you have migration news around EU countries and so on. So there is a really like, for example, in EU level, they wanted this European Commission to establish such a website that we can learn from each other and getting better this integration of immigrants. And one fundamental right is to work in the host country. And of course, here is the rights of males and female immigrants in the host countries and challenges of immigration policy, because we all the time develop these policy issues and how we could better respond to these migration streams and the personal lives of the migrants that they get integrated. And also these political issues and women's quotas in political parties worldwide is discussed in this conference. Gender equality and social policy, as well as authoritarianism and gender issues, and further gender violence, health harassment and abuse are included to the themes of 2021COMAGI. Very wide selection and very important themes during these 2 days. And it was already discussed also about this COVID-19 pandemic, because it is touching all around the world. We hear today, even today, we hear these huge numbers in different countries, and it is raising new problems. For example, getting seasonal labor in agricultural sector. I wrote about this theme, an editorial to migration letters, which is available from the website, from Migration Letters website, about the seasonal labor in agricultural sector. Because last year, it was a really big discussion how we can get these seasonal workers, because we really need them. And we know that from the native population, there is not a so high share going on to work in this sector. But we were also discussing here that we really have to look for example, our own students and so on, how they're willing to go to work over there in the farms. But we started to get people also from Ukraine and different countries, and from Thailand, these berry pickers, wild berry pickers. And what have been challenges of women and labor migration during this COVID-19 pandemic? This is very key, one key question raised and dealt in this conference. So as you can see, we are discussing very, very important themes, and we learn during these days a lot from each other. It brings really information by multi-scientific presentations of new research results for these participants around the world. And also what is the target 2021COMAGI will establish, consolidate and sustain a network of academics who share an interest in migration and gender issues worldwide. So we get to know each other, and there was already in the beginning how there is willing to have these partners, earlier speaker, and so on. So this is the place where we can meet in these COVID-19 times in a virtual world. So I wish you and have an inspiring conference 2021COMAGI. And I thank you very warmly for this invitation and having the chance to having this presentation. Thank you very much.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Professor Ali, for the excellent speech. Now I will request Professor Inderjeet Singh Sodhi to deliver the thank you speech to all the participants of this session. Professor Sodhi.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Saurabh. I'm thankful to Professor Manoj Dixit and Dr. Saurabh, as well as Rector of Alfred Nobel University and Dr. Oksana. They all four together conceived the idea and planning of this international conference 2021 COMAGI. And with both the partners, other organizers also came together, like Dr. Abba Foundation, India, Migration Institute of Finland, Turku, Finland, Transnational Press London, Britain, Ternopil National Pedagogical University, Ukraine, Mustafa Kemal University, Turkey, University Institute of Lisbon, Portugal, and Dimitri Santamir Christian University, Bucharest, Romania, Mersin University, Turkey, Faculty of Business and Law of the MB University, Serbia, Belgrade, and National Institute for Economic Research, Republic of Moldova. These all 10 universities institute together organize this first international conference, COMAGI, migration and gender issue. I am thankful for all the organizers, the professors, the academicians, the researcher, students who directly or indirectly help in this international conference in a proper and respectful manner, proper organization. I am thankful to Professor Manoj Dixit and Professor Prabha Datta, as well as my director Sir Professor Shivnath. They all always encouraging to work for academic enrichment and to do systematic and confined research. I always are guided by Professor Manoj Dixit and Professor Prabha Datta. They are like mentor for me. And I believe this first international conference will be organized next time in offline mode in Alfred Nobel University. And whenever we see the infrastructure of Alfred Nobel University, that is awesome. Excellent infrastructure Alfred Nobel University have. So I believe that whenever this conference will be organized next year in Alfred Nobel University and Dnipro city, Ukraine, it will be very well organized, hospital will be good. And I believe there will be more paper will be there, more academicians will come and present their research study, like Professor Ali. She very well in a precise and confined time has expressed her views regarding migration and how it had affected particularly the gender, and by authentic report of United Nations. So I'm very much thankful to Professor Ali. We have to learn a lot from Professor Ali. We believe next time we will have some more collaboration with Finland University, where Professor Ali is working, and she will guide us how to work properly, to conduct research study on this migration and other issues directly or indirectly related with migration. And lastly, I am very much thankful to all the participants who has attended this conference and giving their valuable time to encourage us so that we can work more. And the more two torch bearers for this international conference are Dr. Oksana and Dr. Saurabh. Both and that means needs a lot of applause and accolades from my heart, as well as by all the participants who deliberately and consistently working for this successful conference, International 2021 COMAGI. Thanks to all the organizers and participants.
Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank Professor Christine from the North Illinois University, USA, for her informational and support in preparation of the materials for the 2021 COMAGI. So we will be continuing our next session in 15 minutes. So those who want to join the session or who want to continue or join the plenary session, please stay tuned with us. Please do not leave this meeting. So we will be continuing with this link, with this Zoom link and Zoom conference.